Also, like, maybe give another big hand for Hernan, because we work with the Mexican people. We have a studio in Mexico, and those guys are absolutely killing it. And I can tell you for a fact that there's a lot of passion in Latin America. And prior to this, I was with Gameloft. They had a studio over there. They had a studio in Argentina. Those guys were killing it. So like, there's a lot of potential. So thank you for showing that. Yeah. Can I, before we start doing this, and I changed this a bit. This had to be why casual games suck, but not really. But like, before we start, can I get a show of hands, because I want to understand how many of you are developers, like engineers, and how many of you are like business people? So how many engineers and developers? All right. That's it. Okay. So this is going to be fun. How many, is there like marketing and business development here? All right. This is going to be fun for you guys as well. It's also going to be super difficult for me. But yeah, so I'm going to give it away. Before we start, like, this presentation is not necessarily about casual games. We do talk about casual games, but I don't want you guys to feel like I'm pulling the rug out of your, like from under your feet. This is more about people than casual games. We do talk about that. So just, I'm going to give it away before we start. People are the most important asset that you have. That's it. If you want to walk away now, go with Hernan and have some coffee. This is the talk. Right? But then, like, the story goes a bit deeper than that, because I actually joined Amber, and I'm going to tell you a bit about Amber, because I wanted to make independent games. My friend Dragos, who's in the audience now, hired me over there, and we wanted to make, how many of you guys here are Polish? All right, a lot of people. All right, so we wanted to make the Witcher of Romania. That was the dream, right? And by that, we were kind of saying, it's not like the best vision, but it was our vision. And by that, we were saying that, you know what, we want to make something that is beautiful. We want to make something that's independent. And we want to kind of like capture the Romanian ethos in that. So we wanted to eventually build an independent creative studio. Back then, we were only doing services. And I quickly learned that we had to do services. We were going to continue to do services. We ended up making casual games. We built the first team that made casual games. I'm going to tell you all about it. We'll also find out that making casual games is difficult. There's going to be 3 stories that I'm going to tell you and kind of what we got out of that. Like, the most important thing is, and again, people are your biggest asset. Teams are your biggest asset. So who's Amber? We're an agency, made a bunch of games. Some of them are successful, some of them, but what I can tell you is that it's always fun. We're like pretty big right now. We're in Europe, and we're in Latin America, and we're in Poland. Woo, yay! Woo, yes, thank you. And I think you're gonna like these stories. So our team is Avalon. We're kind of like the casual arm of Amber. And we did a bunch of games. Some of them were successful. Some of them were, and these are the stories that I'm going to tell you. Let's look at the casual market for a bit. And I'm going to rush through this. There's a lot of casual games. Puzzles, obviously. Puzzle is the most known type. But there's also the tab games. There's also the steering games. And then there's the IO games. And you're going to kind of see the denomination over here. But like, the bigger thing is that, like, casual games are they're over 70% of the market. So in terms of downloads, if you look at what's being downloaded, and you know this, right? There's Playrix, there's King, there's the guys at, what's their name? Steerhog. Where are they? I hope I didn't get the name wrong. Right? So they're here, they make an awesome casual game, like Empires and Puzzles. So really, that's a lot of volume in the casual market. And then there's a lot of money, right? Because casual games kind of make 52% of revenue in US, I think. Yes. And that's a lot. And it's kind of the same globally, if you look at it. So big market. But, you know this, like, most of the big spenders, most of the big titles are Match 3, there's bubble shooters. Merge is coming out right now, and it's kind of interesting. And then word games, they're always going to be around. They're like, word games and trivia are the mechanics that are always going to be around. They're evergreen. The funny fact is that no one figured out how to make money out of them. They have great retention, but no one really knows how to get high RP out of them. So like, if you want to make a game for the casual market, it kind of feels like swimming with sharks, just a bit, just because there's so many big players in there. So, and it's kind of hard. If you want to make a casual game and break into the top 200, you're going to need an awesome team. So here's how we learned that. The first game that we did was Cinderella Freefall. And like, this is like 7 years ago. So I think back then, I was the 37th employee of Amber. And we were doing services, like I told you. We were doing a lot of services for Disney Interactive. And we really wanted to make a game. Back then, they were looking for a developer. They had worked with us on Frozen Freefall before that. They had done Maleficent Freefall, which is kind of, both the games were killing it. So when we stroked this deal, we were like, all right, this is it. We're going to make a shit ton of money. This is a Disney IP. 5 months, we can do it. We've done this before. We know a lot of people. We can do this. It's a match 3. Come on, we can do it. And I think maybe Candy Crush had been live for 1.5 years. So it's still like emerging. It took us, we did do it in 5 months. It was a 20-person team. The game went live. It eventually broke into top 200. We did good. We did over 10 million downloads, but we didn't get rich. Like, that's the thing. We hadn't done a decent game with a lot of effort. And this is the team. This is one of the greatest teams that I was part of. And one of the things that we were building the team as we were building the game, so 5 months to build a team and a game. That was kind of difficult. And like, these are all mostly our friends, because that's how you, like, when you start an indie dev studio, you're like, you don't have any HR, you don't have any recruiter, you're like, hey, I have a cool project, come join me. So most of these guys are people that we know. But the problem was that, like, some of them were ex-EA, and some of them were ex-Gameloft, and some of them were ex-Ubisoft. And even though these guys were really good at what they did, like, some of them were doing mid-core games, some of them were doing shooters, some of them were doing racers. No one was making casual games. Some of them were doing PC, some of them were doing mobile, and they didn't really have time to, like, blend. Like, 5 months to kind of, like, go through the process of forming, norming, and it's not going to happen. So it was super difficult. And, like, the lesson for that was, like, awesome team, but we didn't have the right people for the job. We had our friends, which is cool. It's better than making a game with strangers, but it's definitely, like, the first takeaway for us was, like, get the right people for the right job. Like, if you're a professional, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do anything. The second game, and this is like, we had gone through another development cycle post-Cinderella, or maybe 2. We had put out another 2 games. So we went into making Coin Heist. This is more like, if you know Coin Master, it's like a fast follow. It's a fast follow that took 1.5 years. So not really a fast follow. And like that's one takeaway. Big team, 60 people, a lot of content to make for this type of games. We built this for Proteus Games. Beautiful game. It went live. It stayed live for about 6 months because we were not getting the numbers. But we didn't know that, right? So by this time, we had the team. And we had done a couple of games. We knew how to make casual games. We had the right people. We're like, all right, let's do this. So everyone loved the title. We're going for an aggressive timeline. We're going to test as fast as possible. We got a timeline. We got processes. We got everything. And we start development, and boom, we go like, all right. After 2 months, we swapped, because we initially had a dice mechanic. We didn't have a slots mechanic. We swiped the dice mechanic for the slots mechanic. Then we changed the art direction. Then we made other tweaks. And then we were looking at the partner with it. And there's some things that they didn't like. So like tweaking and pivoting. And we ended up making like an 8-month game in 1.5 years. And we kept, like, that's the thing. Whenever one of these things would happen, we knew that we were running out of money, and we knew that we were running out of time, so we'd throw more people at it. Like, 60 people. That's a huge team for a casual game, right? And like, that's what we learned is like there's only so many people you can throw at a game. Like we learned that the painful way because we had like 60 people, but I think like none of them were working over 70% of their capability. And scope creep, like a lot of people, a lot of teams fall into this trap like we did when you're scope creeping. You just want to put more people on it because you're going to fix it. It's not going to happen. There's only so many things that you can do in parallel in a game. And then the third one, so it was game, really sucky game, and now it's a successful game. Cash Live. So do you guys remember HQ Trivia? Did any of you play HQ Trivia? I see some people nodding, maybe. So HQ Trivia was a very popular game. It was a breakthrough. It was a live game. It was streaming game. You'd get these live events that you could participate, you'd take part in. People like hundreds, thousands of people would take part in that. And they have real cash prizes. Like if you would go through 10 questions and you'd answer all those questions, you could get that money. And they'd wire it to use a PayPal account. So, wow, viral sensation. We got approached by a company called Cash Live to make this guy for them. And they had a very simple vision. They wanted to do a fast follow. They eventually did a fast follow for the game. They wanted to do HQ Trivia with poker. So kind of like HQ Poker. The name of the game was Cash Live. We did it in less than 12 months, I want to say. It went live. We tested it. It happens in a studio. So like there's a person, much like me, holding a microphone, curating the game. It goes through rounds. And at the end of the 10 rounds, people earn money. They earn real life money. So like this is more of it's a fast follow, but it's also kind of incremental innovation. But what happened is that in the meantime, while we were making the game that we were gonna bank on, like started failing. And I don't know if you guys know this, but HQ Trivia is no longer around. And we're like, do we put this live? But we did. The game is still live now. It's live. You can play it in the US and you can play it in Canada. Unfortunately, you cannot play it into Europe just because of how gambling laws work here. But it's still going strong, and it's been going strong for the past 2 years. And like the lessons that we got out of that is number one, you're gonna luck favors those who keep trying. So like keep trying and keep trying, you have to keep trying. And you know what? Products are gonna come and go. But like the people that you have in your team, those guys are the most important. Like even if your product tanks, you still have, number one, you have your friends because you spend a lot of time with them and you're probably friends by now. And then number two, you've got more experienced people as you're building the next game. How are you doing on time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, all right. Because I want to know how bad do I rush this. So maybe we get also time for questions. Closing comments. So like there's closing comments. Casual market sucks. It's hard to make games for the casual market. It's extremely difficult. We tanked 2 titles up to now. 1.5. But it's awesome to make games for the casual market when you have the right people. And you can only get the right people by making more and more games. Like right now in Avalon, we are at I think the 5th production cycle with our teams. And like everyone knows everyone. And they talk about their children, and they talk about their games, and they talk about everything because they're like super close to one another. So that's one. Number two is you guys remember how I was telling you that we wanted to make the Romanian Witcher? I'm like, I'm good for now. I don't necessarily want to make the Romanian Witcher because it's kind of awesome making games with these guys. I actually love right now. I feel super blessed that I get to work with these amazing people rather than making that game. I think that's way cooler. And I want to make more games just because it's fun to make games with people that you love. And those are like more personal things. But then, number one, get the right people for the right job. Number two, like you need the processes to support those. those people, and you like build the processes for the people. Don't try to make the team for the processes. Like, you know, you probably met, like, all of you guys are here that are engineers. You probably know that Scrum Master that wants to do Scrum by the book. Like, everyone hates him, right? Everyone's like, no, I don't want to make Scrum, like, not another daily stand-up. And it's because it's not fun. The process is supposed to serve the people. You should not be doing a daily stand-up just because you want to do a daily stand-up. You should be doing a daily stand-up because it's useful for you. Like a friend of mine says that Scrum and Agile is much like communism. It sounds great on paper, but no one can like properly implement it. I don't know if you guys feel the same. But like, it can be done. It can be done. We did it at Amber. And like, there's only so many people that you can throw at the project, as I was telling you, like we learned with Coin Heist. And then products come and go, but people are your biggest asset. And like, you can kind of see that in Amber's values right now. And I know I'm turning a bit corporate and like, hey, this guy was going to give us a personal story. But it's one of the reasons why I love working with Amber. And I kind of love working with teams that put people on the right track. Like how we figured it out, we eventually put it into our values, right? So, but it's like, people go like, values are bad, values are corporate, values suck. Well, values suck if you make them suck. If you make sucky values, yes, they're going to suck. But if you make good values, they're going to be nice. So like we focus on working together. We focus on learning, always improving. That's a big thing. We don't always do that, but when we don't, we kind of fail. But then always put people first. Like that's if I were to give you guys like repeated over and over, like good teams are the biggest asset that you're going to get. Closing comments, like if you want to learn more about it, these are 3 books that I really love. They've made a world of difference for me. By the way, I don't think you can teach these things. So I think that you're going to read these books, and you're going to be like, okay, that makes sense. But you're not going to learn how to be, if you care more about product than you care more about people, then more power to you and focus on product, because you shouldn't be focusing on people. It's not something that you can learn. It's something that, like, find your tribe. This is why, because you're going to find the team that you love working with. But like, if you want to get more intellectual about it, 5 Dysfunction of a Team, Patrick Lencioni, he kind of explains what a good performing team looks like. Like he builds a model, a psychological model, and kind of like what the values are for that team. Leaders At Last by Simon Sinek. This is a book that I really love. It kind of speaks to why we're wired to work in herds, why we're wired to work in communities, why we feel good being part of a team. And then Creativity Inc. If you want to know how Pixar was making beautiful movies while they were in an apartment, then you should read this. It kind of speaks about how you get the best out of people to create awesome things. That's my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. Put people first, have fun making games, and can we take do we still have time for 1 question? Maybe 2? Okay. If you guys have questions. If not, we can join the coffee train. Yeah. Woo! Choo choo!
Thanks for your story. It was nice to hear about your face. But I was thinking, if now in your place, if you could change something in your marketing strategy, your marketing activities, do you think that would make a difference? And you could avoid this phase if you change your marketing strategy, marketing activities?
Yes. That's a good question. Yes. What I would change is that I would get. If it were me 7 years ago, I'd be like, hey, Gabe, marketing matters. Like, get people who understand the market. And I think you've seen this with teams. A lot of teams know that we're going to make that game. Why? Well, because I know I like that type of game. Like, yeah, but did you like do a market study? Did you look into the market? Is there an audience for a game? Is there still an audience? Maybe it was 5 years ago when you played it. So that's number 1. I'd get market research. The other thing is I'd test as early as possible, and I'd test in marketing tests. Like, you can just make a mock-up of your game, put it live on Instagram, see how many clicks it gets. So, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think marketing is a huge part of making games, especially in today's climate and in today's market. Like, you remember those sharks? Like, all those sharks do marketing. all of them. And I think a lot of people think that marketing is only like how you market the game. Once it's live, it's not that. It's about studying it and having the people that understand the market, because it's about the market. Did I answer your question? Yes. Yes, get marketing people. Marketing people are awesome. Make them your friends. Get drunk with them. Hug them. You're going to make awesome games.
Anyone? Any questions?
We can make fun of Scrum if you want. If you don't have questions. Make fun of Agile.
All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.